A Madeline Island resident was in Paris this week.
Barbara Wirth is a writer and musician. She was performing at a concert with Ben Sidran just a few blocks from the site of the terrorist attacks. And we talked to Barbara via Skype from Paris earlier today.
On Friday night, the night of the attacks, I was hanging out with Ben Sidran and his band, and they were playing at a little club called the Sunset Jazz Club. And we were just south of a shopping center that was also sort of suspected to be part of the attacks.
So what did you see and hear?
Well, it was difficult in the club because the audience was coming in with a report about this, a report about that. We knew the stadium had had some kind of incident, but that was very, very far north of us. So it was really hard to get an idea of what was going on until the club told us to cut the night short and we got out on the street.
What was it like out on the street? People
were just every which way, panicked. We were, like I said, probably about 4 blocks south of this shopping center that had been thought to have been part of the attack. So people were like, get inside, what are you doing on the street? And there were sirens everywhere. And it really wasn't until we got back to the hotel and found out that the city was in lockdown and kind of what was going on.
What is the atmosphere like in Paris today?
You know, I've been here the past few days, and it's very sad. The Parisians are, I take it the Parisians are sort of bound and determined not to allow this to get in the way of their lifestyle. But last night, there was going to be a memorial service at Notre Dame, and up at the restaurant that had the terrible, where they opened fire, and there was a lot of people there was a false alarm. And so the whole city went sort of back into, they closed off the Notre Dame, and the sirens were ringing all night. There were helicopters overhead, and it had just turned out to be a false alarm, but everybody's kind of on edge.
So it's not back to normal by any means.
You know, as it sort of is. I mean, I've been around in the subways all day and traveling around the city, and it's 3 days of mourning that the president has asked people to do. So there isn't as much traffic, but people just seem kind of sad.
And when are you returning to the United States? Are you feeling anxious about that?
I'm not really, because now that this has happened, there's security everywhere and they're double checking. And so, you know, as far as I know, my flight tomorrow is on time, and Ben got off to London fine the next day. But it's intense. It's been very emotional.
Would you hesitate to go back?
Oh, never, no.
And why is that? That's reassuring to hear.
Well, I think because we in the United States, I think we're more isolated from these kinds of things. Not that this happens in Paris. In fact, this is the worst attack since World War II. But in Europe, there's more of this that goes on. And it's not quite so unfathomable as much as it might be if it happened in Madison or, you know, somewhere in the United States. So people are more accepting, and they're going to go on, and they're not going to let it get in the way of their liberté.
Well, Barb, I'm glad you and your party are all safe and sound, and to have a safe trip back to the United States.
Thanks for talking with us, Barb. Great to see you.
You bet.
Thanks again for her time.
Yeah, really interesting to get her perspective.